Now John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting. Sorry, this is taken from the book of Mark, chapter 2, verses 18 to 23. Now John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting. Some people came and asked Jesus, "How is it that John's disciples and the disciples of the Pharisees are fasting, but yours are not?" Jesus answered, "How can the guests of the bridegroom fast while he is with them? They cannot, so long as they have him with them. But the time will come when the bridegroom will be taken from them, and on that day they will fast. No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment. Otherwise, the new piece will pull away from the old, making the tear worse. And no one pours new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the wine will burst the skins, and both the wine and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins." This is the word of the Lord. Good evening, everyone. I should have started with that, really, shouldn't I? Let's just bow our heads in prayer for a moment. Father God, we come to you from different situations this evening. You know those situations. Put peace in our hearts, Lord. Open our hearts and mind to receive these your words. It's all in your name, Lord. In your mighty name, amen. Well, when I looked at this evening's reading, I froze because I thought, wow, it's one of the most well-known passages for most people. That you must have heard it been preached on many times. What could I bring new to it? I just panicked. I thought, nothing. There isn't anything I can bring new. So I did what I actually sometimes do. I put it to one side and just got on, and life was very busy. It's been extremely busy in my house just lately. Lots of different things going on. And then last week, I thought, I haven't done it. I put the title on the page. It's not a good start, is it? Or is it? Do you want to know what I called it? The old is gone, the new is here. And I normally give myself weeks, because I write the backbone of it, and then I put the meat on the bones, as people would say, and then I delete it and rewrite it, like you do when you're never happy with what you're actually writing. And one of the things that it made me confront was the fact that I'm not very eloquent, that I'm a woman of small words and too many of them. And, you know, I'm a proper northern working class lass. And I think, what am I doing up here speaking? God knows what he's doing, and I just hope he gives me the right words tonight. I'd love to be like, she's not here, Jess, where words are rich and beautiful and vast, and sometimes you sit there and you think, that was beautiful. Wait, you're not going to get that tonight. I'm sorry. I'll just move the Bible and then I don't drop anything in the process. I just wanted to quickly, to start with, to reflect very briefly on Mark's Gospel. It's believed that the Gospel of Mark was the first Gospel to be written. And who wrote it is a little bit of a mystery, Most historians and theologians believe that it points towards John Mark. And they believe it to have been written in round the year 70, before the destruction of the temple, because they felt that if it had been destroyed by this time, Mark would have certainly put it in there. But at the time of the Great Persecution, which is what they called it, his writing style is something that makes the story come alive. From beginning to end, it's lively and it's easy to understand. It's got a very colourful manner as well. Sometimes he starts off in a previous, a more recent tense, and I don't mean that. Start again. He starts off in a past tense and ends in a more recent tense. Get it right. But most people actually pick Mark as the favourite gospel. And that's not because it's the shortest gospel, which it is, but it's because of the way that it's written. Now, you'd think because it misses out a lot of the main things that you would expect to find in there, but it's just the fact of the way that it's written. Mark is absolutely centred on the crucifixion, and that's why his gospel ends with the crucifixion. But the body of it is looking at Jesus becoming involved in a series of controversies regarding things like authority, who can forgive sin, eating with tax collectors, fasting, and the Sabbath laws. In the previous verses, Jesus was healing by forgiving sins and eating with sinners, which really incensed and outraged the religious leaders. In tonight's reading, we see Jesus being questioned by the Pharisees. In Matthew, it says it's John's disciples who question him. But it's probably both. We see them both wanting to know why Jesus' disciples don't fast. Jesus' reply is, do the wedding guests, do they fast while they're celebrating with the groom? No, it's a celebration. Why would they do that? He is the fulfillment of the messianic prophecies, yet they have missed this completely. In Matthew, Jesus himself said that he came to fulfill the law. Jesus tells them when the groom is taken away, then they will fast. That will be the right time. How many clues can he give them? We have to remember that disciples are just followers. That's what it meant. At that time, all the big leaders, all the people that were being listened to would have had followers, and they called them disciples. That's all it means. People that followed them around and listened to the teachings. We're disciples because we follow Christ. We choose to follow Christ. Now, John the Baptist had two goals. The first was to lead people to repentance and be baptized. And the second was to prepare them for Christ's coming. John's preaching was sobering. It got them to confront their own sin. And they were following him in huge numbers. These people were ready. They were ready for instruction. They were ready for the Messiah coming. They were driven down by the oppression of the Romans and the strict rules and regulations that the religious leaders impressed on them at that time. The Pharisees and the Sadducees were hypocrites, really. They strolled around in their nice, long, flowing gowns and They felt that because of the role that they had, that they deserved to be up there. They were proud and they were arrogant. And what they were doing was nothing to do with what God wanted or what was right for the people. At this time, it was quite common for religious leaders and their followers to fast. It was an outward sign of humility, regret for the sin, and an inner discipline that clears the mind and keeps the spirit alert. Fasting empties the body of food, and repentance empties the body of sin. John was a man gifted by God. He was sent to prepare the way for the coming Messiah. Jesus was that Messiah. They couldn't see what was right in front of them. At this time, it is believed that John was in prison, but some of his followers were still following the ascetic lifestyle that he had. So they could have been in mourning for the political unrest that was there, Israel's sins, or even to try and ask God to release John from prison. They continued to fast even when Jesus was there because they didn't recognize him. But they were genuine in their inquiries, so Jesus doesn't answer them sternly, which he would have done with the Pharisees normally. I mean, it might have been that they were really, really either jealous that this man had got greater numbers following him than their leader who was in prison, or just curiosity. They hadn't recognised that John was pointing to Jesus, that he was the Messiah. Eventually, according to Matthew, John sends his disciples to Jesus to ask him, "Are you the one?" Of course, Jesus' disciples didn't need to fast because he was with them. Jesus didn't have anything against fasting. He'd fasted himself in the desert, if you remember, for 40 days. We know that he didn't give in to temptation from the devil at that time, and that he overcame the devil, and that showed that he was the Son of Man, fully human, but fully God. Jesus didn't want people to fast just to show off, to be seen to be doing it, which is what the religious leaders were doing. It had to be done for the right reasons. Jesus didn't think his disciples needed to fast yet. He didn't want to put them off as well, I imagine, because all that religious fasting, some of them fasted twice a week. It wasn't written in Messianic law. There was only one that was written in the law, handed down from Moses. We shouldn't be weighed down the way some people were weighed down then. Not by religious rules and things that we think we should have to follow. That's why we have to question everything. That's why there's such a lot of preaching and teaching go on within the church. Being a Christian frees us to live a good life. It removes those restrictions. When you're free of sin, you're not weighed down by it. Jesus compared himself to being a groom. In the Bible, the image of a bride is often used for God's people, and the image of a groom for the God who loves them. So God is like the groom, and he looks at us, the bride, like a groom would look at a bride, with such love, such awe. He wants to know us, he wants to understand us, he wants to truly get to know us and love us, and he wants us to follow his ways, his teachings. Jesus says, "Who would patch up old clothing with new cloth? For the new patch would shrink and rip away from the old cloth, leaving a bigger tear than before." Interpreters of the Torah observing community would state that this new skin represents a new body, as we die to our old self. And then we see the new wine symbolises a new spirit, which is the Spirit of God in us. The new wine into a new body could also be seen as the resurrection into a new body, then having a new spirit. Jesus did not come to patch up the old religious system of Judaism with its strict rules and traditions. His purpose was to fulfill it and start the new that had been prophesied for centuries. This good news did not fit into the old rigid legalistic system of religion. A new era had begun. Jesus was there offering them all salvation, if only they would listen. The message will always be new, as each generation has to accept Jesus as their salvation. Jesus knew that his listeners understood a used wineskin, stretched with the wine. You'll have to excuse me a minute. The stitches would have burst if they were reused. He was comparing old wineskins to the Pharisees who had become rigid, unmovable, stuck in traditions of their own making. God did not ordain all these fasts. It was just a day of atonement. That's what he had ordained. The religious leaders could not accept Jesus because he couldn't be contained or limited by human ideas or rules. We mustn't let our hearts become rigid and prevent us from accepting the new life Jesus offers. Life's hard. There are many hurdles we have to get over. We have to hold on to the promise we have in Jesus. We cannot love Jesus just in the good times when we need him more in the bad. Matthew 7, it says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few will find it." We have to make sure that we are the few. It's not common knowledge, but I've been diagnosed with alopecia, which is quite hard to deal with for any man or woman. I've always had long hair since I was a little girl. Anyway, my friend gave me some nice bobbles that she'd got during lockdown. And I bought some large headbands in an attempt to cover my bald patches. Not content with that, I thought I'd try some of these hair extensions, you know, a false ponytail and a bobble full of hair. And I tried them on and it didn't feel right, it didn't look right, and it wasn't me. And as you can tell, tonight I'm wearing a wig because I thought I'd try this, which is why I was having a panic because I can feel it coming off. So if it pops off, please don't anyone faint. God is telling me something. I feel different, but I am me, yet I am changed. This really opened up this passage to me. When we receive Christ, we can't go back to our old ways. Not in the way we think or how we behave. Each page of our life allows us to make a fresh start, a chance to improve ourselves, to learn to love ourselves and love our fellow man. When I was working, I qualified as a counsellor and I did some counselling. And one of the things that I often tried to get people to engage with was learning how to love themselves. Because I think that's really important. If you can't love yourself, how can you love someone else? We can now love ourselves. Everyone in here, you can love yourself because God has forgiven you. Whatever it is, when we say sorry, God, our Father in heaven, hears us and he forgives us. We are changed by our conversion. The old is gone. We are made clean. Sin is gone. By the blood of Christ, we start anew. I'll finish with Paul's words in Colossians chapter 3. Put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires and greed, which is idolatry. Because of these, the wrath of God is coming. You used to walk in these ways in the life you once lived. But now you must also rid yourself of all such things as these: anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips. Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator. Here there is no Gentile or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is all and is in all. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you were called to peace. And be thankful. Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly, as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom through psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, Do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Thank you. I'll just go and adjust my head.